Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah.
Dude, 4 years to the day since you did that reverse interview on me that we published over on Scent back in 2019, dude.
That's
to the day, 4 years.
That's insane to think about. It like doesn't even sound real, honestly. Like so much of my life has been like consumed in this space since then, and like so much has changed that, and so much was different then. I don't know, man. It's just really wild to think about. I don't feel like there's been many points in my life where so much has changed over the span of 4 years. But here we are, man. Still doing the thing, which is like so cool and has been like such a great consistent thread through this whole journey.
Dude, meeting you and like starting this, which then bled into like the whip and like all this other fun shit in between. It's just been, it's made it like if everything faded away and like we just have this fucking podcast together, like that's all good. Like, because it'll generate some sort of like cool shit afterwards, regardless. To be able to chat and like chat openly too, like without any sort of constraint, super rare. So just more than anything, just super thankful to be able to have this opportunity to chat with you. But the fact that we can do all this other cool shit together and we still have the whip cooking and all of that is just, that's fucking icing and cherries on top of everything.
Yeah. Shout out to our lack of sponsors and the very few that we've had that has really allowed us to just do whatever we want without having to worry about answering to anybody. And that's the best part, man. We do our thing and just, let it rip.
Yeah, man. I mean, shout out those sponsors though, Whale Street and Proof of Beauty, right?
Yep.
And then honestly, Whale Shark stepped in there for a while as well. Yeah, like we've had some fucking very cool sponsors.
We've had a lot, man. I was actually, if you think about the Metal Olympics as like an extension of the whip, a lot of people like really turned out for that. And a lot of people have like sponsored, like not directly like monetarily, but like, you think about Fabiano
prizes,
man, like, cranking out wearables for us every week, going all the way back to Piandex days when he started that early.
Clay Cal, Spherical Art as well, was in on that.
So
Axie Infinity, we got airdropped AXS back in the day. I mean, honestly, Art Blocks too, with the beta squiggle mint that we did when we hosted them before they launched Art Blocks. Yeah, like honestly, we've had a million sponsors.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. But somehow we're still here. Somehow we don't currently have any, and but. What sort of still hitting the same point, man. The ones that we've had like are ones that have really embraced us just doing our thing and have like I don't know, like we've never had someone throw money at us to help us execute something or do something cool who's like it's come with a lot of like red tape or restrictions or anything like that. Like, I feel like all those people who have like shown us love and contributed over the years, Meme Explorers, man, there's like so many Cunning Digital, like My World with our like intro and everything, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
There's Dragon Hate, like, endlessly helping everything. We could go on and on and on, man. But all of these people who have like, allocated their time and energy and resources and like cool things and money at like certain times where we got lucky and we're able to pull some funds in. It's always been them appreciating that aspect of us, just sort of doing our thing.
Yeah, man. Like Jesus Christ, like so like all of that has happened around this and like has sprouted from just that initial reverse interview right?
Yeah,
That
what?
very, very well, like, couldn't there's a huge possibility that just didn't happen, right? Like if you wanted to stay more anon and let people think that you were like an actual bot that was just seeding posts and not a human being, right? Like that was a very real possibility back then. Like because people, we bring this up periodically, but like back in the Cent days when we had seeding on posts, like people legit thought, like the team itself thought that Rizzle was a fucking bot just because every new post, like the first seeder person took ETH and like essentially tipped the post was Rizzle every fucking time. Like we thought you had a script. It was wild.
I did not, man. I'm just like quick with my trigger finger. Dude, I was just thinking about this the other day. Cent was like sort of like a Ponzi betting on like social aspects, and I've taken some shit for like getting on friend.tech. But it's like the exact same thing. I'm like, dude, y'all need to like understand that like I was born into this space fucking mashing buttons on a Ponzi.
I mean, the difference though, like it was totally Ponzi-nomics, but the difference with seeding was that you just get straight ETH. Like if you get in there early, you make bank. If you get in like anywhere from second place onward, for the most part, you don't make any money back. You just lose it. You're subsidizing Rizzle basically.
I murdered that shit, man.
But that shit was fun.
Yeah, it was so fun, man. It was like, and I did, 99% of what I was able to squeeze out of the Ponzi-nomics was spent on NFTs and like dumped right back into the community. And I feel like, that's sort of how like the whole flywheel worked pretty well back then. A lot of people were doing the same type of thing. The people who were able to beat me out periodically, still like when, right back into the community, man, it was a beautiful thing we had going on.
Yeah, that's what everyone pretty much did. I don't know, except for like what was the dude's name down in Indonesia? Byte Long, where he had like his family, he bought his daughter like a bike, like after he was like on Cent to subsidize his like rice farming and shit like that. Like,
yeah, dude, that was a great like ongoing story.
Yeah, with exceptions like that, everyone else, like whatever earnings from posting or seeding, they just like put it right back in. And it was like a nice little, funds were never crazy high, but it was more than table scratch that people could use to like to your point, buy a parcel in CV, like throw of an event, like commission artists, buy art, blah, blah, blah. It was
great, man, because if you were like, savvy enough, you could, you can earn, a few dollars worth of ETH here and there, but it was never, it's like, are you really going to take the trouble to like, cash out $30 worth of ETH into, your bank account, like do all that shit and everything. And for some people, like who you're talking about, Byte Long and people where $30 goes a long way, you got to see these like great stories of them putting that money to good use. But, for me, I got $20 or $30. There's like all this dope art coming out that's like, between $10 and $20 a pop by like artists who are doing really cool things. It was like the perfect amount of ETH to be like floating around where it wasn't worth the trouble of cashing it out for a lot of people. And there was also like really great things to spend it on in that little ecosystem. So it was so cool, man. But it was really just like a great combination of like so many factors that I feel like made it good.
Yeah, I mean, we were early enough where like the pool of folks that could potentially be interested in what we were interested in, which was like crypto initially, and then like the art and the NFT side of things, it was so small that, and then also just like the barrier to entry, even though it was such a simple sign up flow and process, like it just naturally selected for like really good people for the most part. But I'm just kind of really happy that what we started doing, like the podcast and the Matthew and Rizzle show, like we didn't tie it down to the Cent platform. Like if we had done that, like we probably would have sank with the ship. But since we set up like this thing that operated above it, that could leverage it, I think that was probably like one of the smartest things that we did. That, and then the same thing with the whip, just kind of like make it its own independent platform or vehicle to kind of do our fun shit and talk to like if you look back at our list of like guests on the Matthew and Rizzle show, and then of course to the Whip, like it's all the legends, like all the big names, not just even in like NFT land or anything like that, but like across the crypto space. It was so cool.
It's amazing to think back on it, man. And you know, Sen at the time was just like where the hot spot was for all the, you know, at least like a ton of the cool stuff going on. So it just lent itself naturally to sort of being covered. So yo, dude. So how are we gonna do this, man? Am I gonna spotlight you first, or were you gonna do this? Spotlight me? How you want to run it back? What are we gonna do?
Dude, if you want to reverse spotlight to make it like the official like 4-year anniversary thing, because that's what you did. You fucking interviewed me. I was listening to your questions. Yeah.
Well, all right. Let me give it some context then, man. So like way back when everyone thought I was a bot, and I had sort of like, you know, the leaderboard on Scent was a thing that people paid attention to. And I was like just running the leaderboard for so long that I feel like, you know, and Matt was, I don't know what your official title was, man, with Sen at this point, but you were like definitely the face of the community. And we're doing these interviews with prominent members of the community who are doing interesting stuff with like crypto or Web3, like, you know, very, very similar to the kind of stuff we've done together for so long. And so he had done several of them, and I was like, you know, paying attention because I was just on the site all the time, you know, sort of you know, competing in the gamified aspect of it. And so you know, was watching Matt doing these interviews, and I'm like, you know, how long is it before they hit me up at some point? Because, you know, I'm obviously at the top of this leaderboard. People must be curious who I am because I haven't like said anything for a long time. So Matt, excuse me. I think back on that, like, you know, every now and again, how like, you know, that was really where I got dragged out of my Anon hole by Matt, and he was the one who reached out to me, and you know, I'm sure was doing some recon on whether or not I was actually a bot, and actually I think that question came up during the spotlight and everything. So so I don't know. So Matt and I like hit it off, right? And immediately in the first interview, and I was like, you know, this guy is cool. And I honestly, even though I'm like, you know, started off being in this community for the gamified stuff, I did find myself, you know, dumping a lot of the funds back into the community, and really enjoyed what was going on. And Matt was the face of it. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to like reach out to this dude and see if we can do this thing backwards, and I can get into his head and see if I can figure out like, I don't know what makes him tick. I was just honestly curious about Matt, because I'm like, you know, here's someone doing something that, you know, I just think is really cool. And we've got this fledgling community here, and was just trying to see how I could dig into that. So, wanted to pick Matt's brain, and I'm like, this is a good opportunity. I'm like pretty entrenched in this community. Maybe this I can, honestly, on some like personal level, I was like, you know, maybe this is my, you know, key to getting more involved in some way. And that actually opened a lot of doors, which we mentioned earlier. And I think things really shifted when Scent brought me up to NFT NYC after we had gotten to know each other a little bit. But anyway, it started off as like Rizzle Recon. I'm like, you know, Matt was doing his thing on Scent's and trying to figure out who I am. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to, you know, return the volley. And it was cool, man. I feel like the second conversation was as good as the first, but it is honestly a conversation that we haven't really had since then, in terms of just like, you know, a lot of it was like, dude, what do you do all day? And, you know, what's a day in the life of Matt like? And I was just very curious about that, because Matt was doing really interesting things, and Matt is still doing very interesting things. And as we were saying earlier, a ton has changed over the past 4 years in both of our lives. And we have been doing the whip together. We've been doing this. But Matt and I, for the most part, like our conversations are pretty like focused on whatever's at hand. And, you know, we don't, you know, we get into like personal stuff every now and again when it comes up, but we don't do a whole lot of like bullshit, and we like, you know, show up and crush the podcast, crush the whip, high five. See you next week, man. So dude, 4 years later, man, for people who are interested, maybe we could drop a link in the notes to the old spotlight so people can sort of use it for reference. But 4 years later, man, you're working for Nifty Gateway. I'm guessing that is primarily how you spend your time or most of your week, but would love to get the 4 year update, man. And that's what you've been doing for a long time now. So let's give people like the whirlwind tour, but of what's going on over the past few years or so. But also would love to hear, man, like what present day Matt is just up to on a regular basis.
Yeah, like it's honestly wild to think back to 4 years because everything, like in my life personally, has so fundamentally changed since then. Like that said, though, I feel like everything that I was doing then, like on Scent in particular, was just like trying to keep the heartbeat going, right? Like we found this space. There's something there that caught all of our attentions, right? And that specialness, that like heartbeat, that kind of drew us there. That's pretty much been my life for the past 4 years, making everything.
People still talk about it, man. Metageist was just posting about it yesterday. You know what I mean? It was such a pivotal thing. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, I mean, that piece that Metageist did in honor of A Lot of Money, everything that he baked into that work, I'm just like, fuck, dude. I'm like retweeting multiple tweets in that thread of that specific project. But no, it's a beautiful representation of like our imprint on the space and like everything that like my overarching goal is to keep the heartbeat going of what makes the space special. But 4 years ago, dude, I was working 2 jobs. So I was like head of community, was doing the social side of thing of Scent. That was like before they had made me a co-founder officially. But I was also full-time working at Samsung in Korea. So I was doing 2 full-time jobs. It was fucking wild. After we had started doing this, the beginning of 2020 is when I went full-time into crypto and Scent. And as you know, then like April 20th, 2020 was when we had that fucking terrible update and just broke the product. And yeah, the exodus began from Scent to like crypto, Twitter, whatever. But with Matthew and Rizzle show, the whip, that also started the beginning 2020. Like it was a cool vehicle to keep in touch with the community, to keep the community together. But professionally, I had started thinking about next steps, like probably the summer of 2020. Like after we realized, like after Max, for example, just fucking disappeared from Scent, like literally he just ghosted the team and fucking ran away. So it left me, Cameron, Pavan at the time, Andrew, who was still on the team then. We're just like kind of holding our dicks like, holy shit, we have a product that is beyond fucked. Like what are we going to do? And from that crisis, 2 things happened. First, I started looking around for the jobs. So hit up Super Rare team, amazing team, awesome interview. Hit up OpenSea, spoke with Devin, Alex. It was like great team, awesome opportunity. I'd been talking with Conlon and the Async team. That was really cool. But I'd also reached out to Nifty Gateway, talked to Duncan and Griffin and Tommy K at the time. Super, super small team. And I had the best conversation with them. Everything about Scent from the moonshot, super, super young, had users, but definitely couldn't say it had product market fit or anything like that. And the insecurity that came with that, also compounded by the fact that my wife got pregnant at the beginning of the year. Then I was like looking for a little bit more stability. And Nifty Gateway at the time, because they had been acquired a little bit earlier by Gemini, came with that security and also with a team that was heavily involved with the product and using it, right? Like what you're saying earlier, me at Scent, like the face of it, whatever. Like I was the only one on the team that was using it regularly. Cameron would come in and use it when he could, but he was also building it. So that took up most of his time. And then Max was super aloof and Pavan was using it, but obviously not like a core user or anything like that. But like that feeling of having the whole product on my back and like I'm the only one actually using it, I was looking for the opposite. And at Nifty, everyone was fucking collecting. Everyone was stoked on the artists. Everyone was paying attention to every drop. And during the interviews, like that was so palpable. And everyone was thinking so hard about it and thinking about like what was still missing and how they can improve it. And I was like, fuck, this is the team. Even though at that time, and still you hear some of this conversation still today, a lot of folks sleep on Nifty or they throw shade at it because they do things in not the exact same sequence as others, because of like the custodial marketplace and shit like that. People were really sleeping on it. But anyway, I had made my mind up that that's the team that I'd wanted to join by early fall of 2020, right around the time that my daughter was born. And right around that time also, I was working with Micah Johnson behind the scenes. Like as he was getting his Severante project ready to release on Async Art, was helping to find collectors and stuff like that. And around that time, that's when I was really close with Tubador and Metacoven. And we had actually lined them up as potential buyers of Severante. And they were actually like the initial high bidder for it. Someone based in Europe ended up collecting it. But that was sort of like a precursor to Metacoven and Tubador going in huge to Beeple as it happened a few months later. But that's sort of an aside. But that experience just reaffirms my commitment. Like, fuck, like I really want to work with the artists. I want to get in deeper. So knew that I was going to Nifty. And after they gave me the acceptance, the process of moving my life from Korea, which is where I'd been based for like, at that time, 13 or so years, like going back all the way to university, of course, starting at Samsung and all that whole thing. So I was like, okay, but I get the opportunity to move to the US because that's where like the team's based out of New York City. And it just so happened that like their second largest office at the time was Portland, which is where I'd actually wanted to go even before I knew that fact. So like that serendipity just like added to like my happiness with that decision to ultimately go over to Nifty Gateway. But because of like the visa situation and stuff, my wife, like I was finishing out the latter end of 2020 in Korea, and had my baby daughter and that whole thing. And it was a really, really cool time because that was also sort of like when Metacast was popping up as this like other experiment and like Web3 focused advertising across like the properties that had spun up like the newsletters, the YouTube channels and stuff like that of folks, creators pushing out content. Like, could we match them with like products and brands in the space to spin that up? And that was a cool experiment, but that ended up just dovetailing into B20 at the time, which was like in history, an interesting event. And that literally ended the B20 like metaverse event was my last day in Korea before flying out the beginning of 2021, and then January to Portland, where everything with Nifty Gateway got started. And from that time, like it's been all Nifty Gateway, dude. And Nifty Gateway itself has been like the best decision I've ever made out of a series of like really amazing decisions, because it's represented like the best of what we've all been doing here. Like everything in this space is all about projects. Like we really are our projects, and Nifty Gateway is like a project factory. If you think about artists and their independent releases that like I've had the great fortune to help produce since I started here, each one of those releases, it's standalone projects. Some of those projects are obviously a lot bigger, like POC Merge back in November 2021. Working on that was fucking absolutely insane. And when that hit and did the $91 million that it did, it was just like, what the fuck is going on? But the ability to work with such insane artists and do really cool things, like Cody back in August of 2021, he had, to my mind, I think the first IRL or hybrid IRL URL event in the Bright Moments Gallery in Venice Beach, where we had his show that was also like a fucking epic collaboration with the rock band Bauhaus. That was a cool auction, cool experience in the Bright Moments Gallery, but was also like the day before that actually happened, we went to Bright Moments, and that's when Crypto Venetians was still being minted. And Cody, myself, and a few others were actually the last IRL participants in the minting process for Crypto Venetians, because literally the next day is when they had that weird hack happen to them, and like the rest of the Crypto Venetians were like stolen and shit like that, and they had to put a pin it. And then the next minting was like when they went to and set up shop in New York City with the Crypto NYC avatar portion of that. Anyway, this is like an aside, but working with Cody and then Hackatal and Skygolpe, Blondie, Missile Simpson, Sarah Zucker, of course, Brian Brinkman, all his epic drops I was able to work on, like Panther Cheetah, Lalo Worko, John Bergerman, Crypto Cubes, and Han, and fucking crazy calls with like Kim Kardashian herself, like the Kraft family, like the owners of the Patriots, hopping on a video call with Sylvester Stallone and The Weeknd and like random shit like that. Like it's just been a fucking blur, man. And then having the opportunity to help build out the Odyssey journey with Starbucks, work with the Red Bull team, dude. Like it's just been a project factory and just the best relationship vehicle I could have ever imagined. And just like as a collector in this space, to be able to have a hand and help shape some of these epic collections that these world-class artists are releasing, and then being able to collect has just been super, super, super special. That's pretty much like what I've been up to and what I'm still up to. And always learning, man. Like, you know, even going back to Scent, like it's not like it's all been peaches and cream. There's been a whole lot of like rose thorns that we've been fucking pricked with. Like going back to Scent, the mistake there with the product, trying to do everything all at once, has probably been like the best lesson to ever learn, as painful as it may have been. At Nifty, like working with like the more pop side of things and like those mainstream artists, like I mean, that was probably not the right thing to do in retrospect, but like an amazingly valuable lesson to learn, and has been helpful in avoiding a lot of the pitfalls that I've seen other projects fall in over the course of the past couple of years and all that stuff. But yeah, man, dude, life is awesome.
I'd love to zoom in a little bit. And first, I would just like to walk a statement back a little bit, man. I was definitely one of those people throwing shade at Nifty Gateway for their for the way that they have their custodial thing set up, just as like a purist of the space and everything. But you're definitely seeing more and more people move in that direction. And I've definitely been interacting with different platforms in that capacity. And
01 is case in point.
Exactly. And not the only one either. So, you know, there's a lot of people moving in that direction. It's not the worst experience in the world. And anyway, man, would like to not throw shade at Nifty Gateway for that. However, man, I would like to know what, like, when you're talking about working on all these projects and everything, like, what does that like actually mean? And has it meant the same thing throughout your time at Nifty Gateway? And I would also like to say, man, I feel like you've got like sort of a unicorn job in the space, man, in what seems like a very stable company that you really enjoy working with, that you've had this job for like 6 eternities, considering how the space moves and everything. So yeah, man, would love to know like sort of what you actually like, you know, are doing when you're working with these artists, and if that's changed in any ways during your time there.
Dude, every single artist is so different in their approach, right? So the ability and like what I can do extends from helping to conceptualize and come up with the collection concept and theme with the artist.
You find the artists, like they find, I'm like getting in the weeds a little bit, man, but I'm just like curious how the whole thing works. Are you like in charge of
okay. Yeah. So like going to like artist discovery and all that stuff. So when I joined, obviously I had a lot of artist relationships, hit a lot of folks up. They go, you want to do a drop in Nifty? At the time, because it was blowing up so much, there's so much inbound. So we were spoiled for choice. We were able to be like hyper selective with the artists that we're able to work with. So it's a whole bunch of like jumping on calls, DMs, like, do you want to do something? Do you have any idea? You do? Dope. Want to jump on a call and chat about it? Yeah, let's go. Like that's a lot of it. There's also like when we go to these like NFT NYCs or like Art Basels or like non-NFT summits, like those things, like those are also opportunities just to chat with artists, listen, see like what they're cooking up. Oh shit, that's a dope idea. Do you want to do something on Nifty? Yeah, bet. Okay, let's keep talking about this. Let's refine it. And that's pretty much it. There's no set formula for how it happens, right? And how these collections come together. Not only because artists are all so different, but just because the collections they come up with all have such distinct, unique characteristics. Some are super tight and very, very limited. Others are like Pac Merge are supposed to be for the whole world to potentially like participate in and shit like that, right? So it's being able to help craft those ideas with the artists. If there's something that needs to be developed technically that we don't currently support, which happens more often than not, then I also have to put on like the PM hat, work with the devs, like spec out what needs to be done in the most efficient way, make sure that whatever needs to be built is built in time, like help craft the promotional marketing strategy, work with our social team and all that good stuff. It's awesome. You get to do all the things and it's always so different, so that like it's always a cool challenge and a cool nut to crack. And also like it's really also super important that on the art side to always make sure that the art comes first. So that's probably the only standardized thing that I like make sure to focus on and like make clear every single time I work with an artist, is that you don't start with like the number of editions or the price or anything like that, because that fucks the whole character of a collection up and makes art a second class citizen. So instead, keep it about the art, keep it about the high concept, work on the works in progress, share them, like vibe check it, then start to kind of whittle it down. Like what is actually the tightest collection here? And then asking questions to kind of round it out. Like, who does the artist really want to collect this? A lot of people, select few number of people, existing collectors, new collectors. And then my job is to help kind of guide it. Okay, well, if you want to do A, B, C, and D, how about shaping it like this? How about editioning it like this? What about this release mechanism that feels very on brand? And just really helping to reflect the most of the artist's original intent into the collections, so that the collection is not just the art is what the artist has created. It's the whole thing, from pricing, editioning, everything, marketing. Like it's all a reflection of that artist's intent. And that's basically just my job, to make sure that I reflect it as much as possible, because that's what resonates with the collectors. They want that full artful experience, top to bottom. And if it's not like that, and this has happened in the past for teams that, like, going back to the pop music days, where you're working not necessarily directly with the actual artist, but their teams, you get a product that feels dramatically different than collections and releases that the artist themselves from start to finish has been an integral part of. And I think like Sam Spratt, the Monument Game, is probably like the best, most recent example of what magic happens when you make sure that you help craft and create an experience that reflects the full fucking scope and spectrum of an artist's original intent, because it can be so fucking powerful. But yeah, I hope that describes and answers that question of like what I actually do and how I do it.
No, it does, man. It sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like a lot of overlapping skill sets in terms of what you and I both do at the Whip on a regular basis.
Yeah.
In terms of just honestly working with a lot of overlapping people, who've appeared on the Whip and Nifty Gateway, but crafting curated experiences for them and everything. Dude, that's awesome. Yo, dude, so you mentioned a lot of these really amazing artists that you worked with and done a ton of name dropping, man. Rightfully so. You've worked with a ton of like really incredible people and creators. I'm sure that when you think back of your time working with people, and maybe it's just not like necessarily Nifty Gateway, man, but if you think of your like history upon diving headfirst into the space, what are some of the things that like really stick out? I mean, maybe there were nightmares, maybe there were like high points, maybe it was like working with someone in particular, but like what really jumps out at you over this timeline?
It's hard to pick, dude, but I think one of the biggest blessings, I think, what goes back to like November 2019 when I collected Saint Nakamoto by a lot of money in Da Vinci, and like
great one, man.
That was I mean, that was the last time that like a quote unquote like normal person could have an all-time high sale, purchase, whatever in this space. It was such a small window of time, but like the energy was right, and fucking I just YOLO'd it, and it ended up being a game changer.
Yeah.
That caught the eye of like, I mean, of course, like Basilius had seen what Conlon was doing in the Gangnam district and saw his purchase of Matt Cain's piece. One of Us, I forget the name of that title. And then what I did, then Whale Shark seeing that, and like the big collectors coming in and like really splashing out and like finally valuing the art like as valuable as we had known it to be. But in numbers that like no normie folks that had been in the space that weren't like already crypto rich could have ever imagined. But that sale and the subsequent collection, like purchases and like everything that I was collecting was awesome. But then it came full circle. So when I joined Nifty, I was able to work with a lot of them, and we're able to actually craft collections together. So getting on those calls with him when he was in France, like in his lab, like fucking blacked out studio, lighting and sparking a joint and just getting high and like throwing out concepts and seeing what we laughed about the most, like that was so fucking cool. It was so cool, man. And then to see like the results of those collections just hit and have collectors be so happy and us just like high-fiving across the internet is so cool. And then when, like, of course I had a sale of Saint Nakamoto to Yaya, who was an amazing steward of the piece and ended up helping to resell it for $1 million. It was like, we got on another call and like, we're just like blown away that all the way back in 2019 at like a price point that now seems trivial, like $1,700, like that set in motion a series of events that culminated in that same piece then being resold for $1 million. Like it's just, and then our names are all associated with it, right? Like the provenance of that and being able to connect the dots with the stories that are going to be told and retold about something like that. And then those extra interactions to be able to craft collections and release them and have them be so lauded. Like that's probably like all together an all-time memory. Those other interactions and like other artist relationships that I've forged and like grown and deepened with folks like Cody and Sarah Zucker and Brinkman. But like so many more, like Lyle Lawerko, Panther Cheetah, all like there's too many amazing moments and memories to say that there's any more. But like you have to go back to the Alada and like the really, really early memories and how they've linked together and grown over time. And yeah, I think that just stands out as such a really unique, cool, like compound memory, if you will.
Oh, dude, that's like probably the greatest answer in the world because it's come up before, man. And I really feel like, even today, I remember when that happened, man, and it felt like like something shifted in the space, like across the board at that time. Like we had reached some other level or whatever, and there was
it was
like
electric. It was
yeah,
electric,
it
and
was,
we
man.
shared it. We shared it together, right? So like Comlin had the all-time high with the Matt Cain piece like a month before, and that was very cool. It was very special. But when I scooped the Saint Nakamoto piece, like first of all, like Robness was a fucking madman in the bidding war, which is really cool. Cody got in it too. McAfee, while he was alive, like shouted it out, which is fucking sick. But then like we shared it on Sen because I wrote a couple like banger posts about it. And the one post that really resonated with folks was how I said that this was a shot across the bow at the whole art world and how this is such a game-changing event. And everyone shared in that shit, man. And that converted a lot of people that caught all that attention. And that special moment, man.
No, it was, man. It was like really a pivotal moment in history, like very early on. And I thought you were insane, man. Honestly, I was like, we're too early for anyone to be dropping that kind of money on something. But I remember the post that you just referenced, man, like very clearly, and thinking, I was like, dude, this is some fucking cool shit, man. At least if you're going to drop this amount of money on this dope piece of art, you fucking flex it like it should be. And no, man. Yeah. What a great call, man. After that, like really vague question I threw at you, I feel like, everyone in the community sort of like, played their interesting role in this whole thing becoming a thing. But that was definitely like a game changer and everything. Good shit, dude. We've probably like shouted out a billion people in this episode. There's probably like a billion people that we've missed. But as stated earlier, man, it's crazy to think that these spotlights that we did on each other in I don't know, man, if I like think all the way back, it feels like everything was like very dark then or something. Like I don't know, we were all everyone was sort of like feeling each other out still and everything.
We were all in caves, man. We were all communicating over text. It was very like the cavemen and women days of the space. It was the dark ages, but it was fun. Like we were all so happy doing what we were doing and like interacting how we were interacting. It was the best of times. Yeah. It's been great shit, man, from start to finish. I'm sure there's like a million things that could have been mentioned. And I've got things that I could as well, man. That first NFT NYC, man, where we all like met each other, felt like coming out of the dark ages for the first time. Yes. Oh my God, dude. I was thinking about that NFT NYC a while ago, man. Like we met so many people and we had such a fucking cool group that we were just like rolling around the city with, going on like the adventure and the dinners. Like, oh man, like when we were at that bar, everyone was there. Like the Super Rare team was there. OpenSea team was there. We were at the table with Token Angels, Andrew Steinwald, Trizlet, right? Connie Digital. Fuck, dude.
Jim. Everybody, man.
Jim. Yeah. Oh my God. And Jim's fucking, I was so hungover and I was in a hotel when he did it, but like the rant or whatever at Nike on stage that I'd heard about, like Johan, that's when we first met Johan. He had swung through there.
Yep.
Dude.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of that, and it's just sort of like a bunch of these people resurfaced on a Twitter thread yesterday with crypto voxels bullshit, and Steinwald commented on it, how it's so cool that like all of us are still here, and there really is like a family vibe amongst like a lot of those people who were there like very early on and are still here, man. I just ran a 10K with spherical art like a couple weeks ago. Dude is a psycho. He's awesome.
Yeah, man. And that came out of that first meetup when we were all at that bar, like that when we literally first met one another, because Paul had to leave a little bit earlier that night, but he was still there and you had agreed to do that run later on, which he actually did, and did again, which is wild.
Don't ask me why. Because I don't know, man, because that's like the best shit, right? That community that has like still sort of like stuck together this whole time, man. And and you were played such an integral role in it, man. Doing that, like I remember being like a little nervous. I don't know, I haven't listened to it, man. I hate listening to myself on these things. I almost like never ever do. So I haven't listened to it in a while, but I was nervous when I interviewed you. I was like, dude, Matt's like an important person in this community, and like this is like potentially an opportunity to it went really cool the first time around. So it's fucking just wild, man, that here we are. But you were the face of that community, man, that has still stuck together for so long and has such deep bonds with each other, man. So it's just been so great to reverse it again 4 years later and figure out what the hell you actually do every day. I remember being stumped back then too.
Dude, appreciate the fuck out of you for even wanting to ask that question and like figure out like what I do and shit like that. That means so much, man.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, dude, anything else top of mind that you want to throw out there or that we missed, or I don't know, man. It's been a good reverse spotlight.
Oh man. I hope if anyone listens to this, like what you take away from this conversation is just to do what everyone that we met along the way has continued to do, which is try to keep the heartbeat going and make this space inviting for others and keep it alive so that others can experience and enjoy and participate and give back to the magic that makes this space so special.
Good shit. Well said, man. We can end it on that. Well, dude, I'll look forward to the reverse. I don't know what we're at or whatever, but we'll flip it next week. We'll be back at the Whip tomorrow with a great one with not Eclectic Method. I believe his manager Richard Richard will be representing him at the main event. Eclectic will be spinning the pre-whip, and I don't know, who knows what the hell is going on. It'll be dope though, I'm sure.
It's gonna be fun. All right, brother.
Good shit, man.
Catch you at the Whip.
All right, later, dudes.